Welcome to this week's episode of Fellowship in Essential Oils. This week I'm going to start off by asking you a question. How many wood essential oils do you know or have in your collection? I'm guessing you've heard or have cedarwood and sandalwood, but are there any others? In fact, there are some amazing wood oils including Nootka, Hinoki, Arbor Vitae and Cade. And today we're going to dive into another lesser known wood oil. We're going to look at Amyris. How are you today, Liz?
I'm very well, and I'm very relieved that you didn't ask me to think of wood oils then, because I kind of went into my usual, oh no, he never prepared me for that question. And most of those I don't have. So, except for Cade, I'll tell you a little bit about Cade. That Cade caused me to lose 2 marks in my aromatherapy exam. I put birch and Cade down as extras in an essay, and they were like, no, that's not in the lesson notes, off. So I only got 98%. So Cade and I are not friends. But Amyris and I, yeah, great friends we are. I really love Amyris.
Well, I must admit, this is an oil that you chose for us to do this week, and I have it in a few blends, but I had to quickly scurry and get myself a single because I think I had a really cheap shoddy one years and years ago, and it did nothing for me. But I have had the bottle up my nostril most of the week. I've fallen in love. I'm loving it.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised actually that you weren't in love with it before, because you're so in love with sandalwood. Yes. And it's often when the sandalwood panic set off, that we were really running out of sandalwood myzore very quickly, and everyone was like, really, we shouldn't be using sandalwood, we've got to protect it. And Amyris was the first thing everybody said, use Amyris, it's just the same. It's not just the same, but it is a really good kind of substitute if you don't have sandalwood. And given that you adore sandalwood and you've got so many, I'm not surprised that you didn't fall for Amyris straight away. But as you know, I'm not really a sandalwood girl, so to have an oil like this in my collection was like, whoa, this is so gorgeously deep and sensuous. And I like oils that relax you. I mean, I know it's so boring, as an aromatherapist, you're like, oh yeah, I like that it does this strange thing with the brain. Like, no, I like things that relax me, end of. And it really does. It's such a really deep bass note. It really slows the thoughts, particularly if it tranquilizes you, if you're very anxious or you can't settle or you can't slow your brain down. All of those things, description of Liz to a T. So lovely. It's just so soothing. I love it.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about the similarities. Aromatically, you could mistake it for sandalwood, and sometimes it's even referred to as West Indian sandalwood. But, aromatically, I think once you really pay attention, you can actually separate them away from each other and notice the difference in them. I guess that'd be as similar as lemon and lime, that they both smell citrusy. Do you know what I mean? In that way?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, but and I'm sure that is correct. I don't really even have like an olfactory database for sandalwood. We don't. Like, you've got so many different ones in your collection. So I just don't. As far as I'm concerned, sandalwood smells like Amyris, not the other way around. But yes, it is often called West Indian sandalwood. It isn't a sandalwood. We should be really clear about that. It was purely just because people wanted to go, oh, have that instead. Now it really is a standalone oil that so many people did like you. They were just like, oh, this is so beautiful. It's so cheap. It's really cheap oil to buy that they're like, whoa, I love this. But chemically, it is missing a really important constituent that sandalwood has. So let's start with that. What I would suggest to people, if they haven't watched our sandalwood video, to really compare this, go and watch it and compare it, because there's really interesting science in the sandalwood one. I'm not going to go into it deeply, but we'll refer to it here because it's important. That obviously we smell using olfactory receptors, and these can distinguish. They think around 3 million different fragrances. So, you smell it and you go, oh, that's just like that. And And I had it yesterday, actually. I smelt some birch, and I don't normally use birch. And I opened it up and I was like, whoa, a euthymal toothpaste. And my husband was like, what on earth was that word? And it was a toothpaste we used when we were kids. You know, straight away my brain went there. So these olfactory receptors are incredibly clever things. And we might consider that they're all in the brain, but that is not so. But amazingly, we have them. Well, I don't, but you would have them on your penis, but on placenta, on ovarian tissue, and on the skin. So, and santanol, which is a constituent within sandalwood, responds to, and I can't remember the number of the receptor, but if you watch the sandalwood video, you'll get it. There is a specific olfactory receptor on the skin that actually heals the skin when it smells sandalwood. I mean, that just blows my mind. I'm never going to get used to that piece of information at all. In fact, I'm going to change that. I heard somebody say the other day, it glows my mind, and it really does. It completely glows my mind. So Amyris does not have that. So it's not going to heal the skin in the same way as sandalwood does. And when I say in the same way, I'm going to say method in the same method, however that word is. But it will smooth the skin unbelievably. So there's sort of three main areas to use it. First, to relax. Second, for skin. Third, for veins. So this skin thing is very, very soothing, very, very smoothing. So it does have a very light kind of lymphatic action. So I always use it if somebody wants me to make something for cellulite. So I'll make like a massage oil of like your lymphatic stuff, like cypress, fennel, juniper is my usual blend actually, with a bit of grapefruit, and then make a thick, unctuous body butter kind of cream, because it loves being in thick oils to smooth the skin down. So you're moving the actual fluid, but also that horrible sort of lumpy effect on the skin smooths all that down. In the same way, very good for, I talked about venous things, and by that I mean of the veins, venous. So anything where the veins are compacted, and this really comes from the traditional medicine of Haiti, Honduras, all of those places where it grows, they all use it for veins. So you would say varicose veins, for example. And think how it works on the veins, and so it pulls the fluid away from the walls of the veins that makes them bulge, but also smooths down the skin. So we have that lovely effect of it really improving the look of the skin with varicose veins. Excellent for hemorrhoids. So things like geranium or helichrysum blend fantastically for it, because probably TMI now, but when I gave birth to my daughter, I told everyone to knit a second hat. There was another birth of hemorrhoids. And so that it's a great oil to use as a compress, and to really pull the blood away from the walls of the vein. But also, when we were talking about skincare, if you have got broken capillaries or rosacea or high redness or any kind of, that ruddy look, particularly people who like drink a lot, they get that look on their nose. Excellent after radiotherapy, where it's got very red, really brings the redness down, moves the blood away from the surface of the tissues. So fantastic for that. But most important function of it all has got to be how soothing it is for anxiety. But sleep. So it's got like two perhaps really important constituents that you don't really hear that much about. So it's around about 20% valerianol. So valerianol comes from, as you would imagine, named after Valerian. It appears in lots of different sort of soothing oils. It's got another name, sometimes called Kusunol, Khus, which is the name for vetiver. comes in vetiver. So this is what makes you sleep. So very, very, very soothing. Also in traditional Haitian medicine, I'm sure we'll probably talk about the torchwood afterwards, so I won't refer to it now. If need be, I'll refer to it afterwards. But it really burns brightly and gives off a beautiful fragrance. And they use it to scare off evil spirits. And so this idea that there's demons and evil spirits, extremely good for nightmares, for night terrors, all of those things, very, very soothing. The other really interesting constituent that, again, we don't really talk about that often is called alpha U decimal. Now, alpha U decimal is getting loads and loads of research because it affects how cells depolarize. So I will explain that in case people don't know what depolarization is. So our nervous system runs on an electrical system with chemical bits in between. So the chemical bits are the neurotransmitters. But what happens to make this electricity work is ions push electrical fluids in and out of the cell, usually sodium, but in this case, it affects how calcium depolarizes the cell. And so it inhibits vasodilation. So vasodilation is when the cell opens and allows more blood to go in. Again, think about how Venus, VONUS, how it affects the cell walls. We know now that the calcium polarization goes, no, not so much blood. But this is really well explored now. And they think this is probably going to become a really good therapeutic for migraine. So again, traditional medicine, I want to keep saying Chinese medicine, traditional Haitian medicine, apologies, Haitian, is to rub it on the back of your neck if you are anxious, if you are tense, but if you have a headache. And so we can actually put science to why that works now. But again, overarching, so deep, so soothing, so reassuring, all of the anxiety stuff. You can see why it's like, it gets rid of evil spirits, because immediately you just feel like, whoa, world's a kind of place and calms you.
You were talking obviously about that it is so relaxing as well. And yes, there are so many relaxing essential oils. Is there a specific time, or if we start to look at it a bit more on a deeper emotional level, when you'd go, Amyris is the one we need today?
Well, that's a yes and no answer. Later you'll say, is it one that you need to have in your box? And I will say, if you're an anxious person or if you don't sleep, put it in, because it's cheap. It's dead cheap. And you'll make fun of my desire to have a bath every single day. And the problem with having a bath every single day is if you put lavender in to soothe you every single day, what's going to happen is you're going to get very dry skin, because lavender tells the sebum production, no, stop, we don't need so much of that. So your body actually makes a drier skin. So if you're a stressed head like me, you can't put lavender in the bath every day. You don't want to put geranium in the bath every day. So you need to kind of get this circle of things going through of like, I know I'm not going to sleep, or, I've had a bad day. So if you're like me, then you definitely need it. And I would say it's an evening kind of oil. I wrote, do you ever have it when you look back at your notes and you go, whoa, that day I could write? Do you ever have that?
Yeah.
I had that. I've got the notes in front of me. I'm like, I like that sentence. I like that sentence. So I put about it being aphrodisiac. So I've written, Amyris is dreamy, boozy almost. It's lazy, languid and sultry. It feels like a sleeping cat stretching and seducing on the bed, lying in wait. It's not necessarily an oil for sexual dysfunction per se, but rather one for happy couples who have journeyed together for a while, holiday sex, if you will. That said, it would be a lovely oil to add to nutmeg, tuberose, patchouli and jasmine, those oils that are knowledgeable about problems in the bedroom. So it's like, It's not really an everyday oil unless you feel stressed, unless you want to relax, but it does feel luxurious, you know? So if you are going somewhere nice and you just think, oh, yeah, something lovely, then it's an amorous one. But I wouldn't say it was a morning oil because it just makes you go, not really be bothered. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Well, let's explore a little bit about it. Another one of its names, torchwood. It's been named torchwood because of its ability. The wood is often used in the Caribbean to start fires or to keep fires going, or to actually light the wood, and it's quite flammable. The essential oil and so on is quite flammable, so you can make it like a torch. So it's been used historically for starting fire, keeping fires going, walking through the darkness, and that type of thing. And that really, as I've been working with it this week, that's really come to the fore of how that would then translate into its metaphysical properties. I think this is an amazing essential oil. When you're talking about stress and worry, a lot of our stress and our worry, probably the biggest scary thing in our lives is the unknown of not knowing what's around the corner, what's going to happen tomorrow. And I think this is going to be an amazing oil to help to, one, calm you down, to not worry, because we can't control everything that's going to happen tomorrow. But we can control ourselves, and this being a wood oil has that earthing element of very grounding. And go, right, okay, well, I can prepare, but I can't control the world, so I can prepare myself for whatever happens. But I think it's going to be a beautiful one to work with, especially with your intuition, to help to bring new insights. And I find it's a really beautiful third. I love sandalwood for the third eye chakra. I love this for the third eye chakra for totally different reasons. In that idea of flashes of light, flashes of insight, helping you to see through the darkness. And I think sometimes we can get so worried in our thoughts, in our concerns, and in our uncertainty that doubt and disbelief and worry and all those types of emotions really cloud the intuition and our psychic abilities. By working with Amyris, I think you can help to clear a bit of that out, get that groundedness, and allow your intuition to actually go, well, I don't exactly know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I'm grounded. I've got a feeling this could happen, and now I can prepare myself for that and be, step into the darkness. I guess almost I see that kind of holding that torch, that burning flame, and going, well, let's see where I journey. And I think it's a beautiful companion for when we find ourselves in that point of worry about the uncertain tomorrow.
I do really agree with that. And I think that, I think somebody taught me a really clever thing the other day, because everyone's always trying to manage my anxiety. I think I manage it perfectly well myself, but everyone always tries to manage it. And what they said was, and maybe I've heard you say this before as well in the past, that anxiety is thinking about what's coming in the future all of the time. Depression's often thinking about what's happened in the past. And the key to balance is to be thinking about the present all of the time. And I think with base notes, and this is more true of patchouli than any other oil I can think of, but it definitely applies here, that it really makes you feel like you're in your body. And if you're a stress head, then you spend too much time up here. You can feel that frenetic energy going on all of the time. Base notes really bring it down into the body. We'll talk in a little bit about rulership, astrological rulership, but I'll jump the gun. In that, I've been very careful to keep respelling out Venus, because I do think it has a Venus rulership, and I'll explain why in a moment, but also a Plutonian rulership. And Pluto is about going down into the shadows, doing the underworld stuff. And that's like when you were talking about this idea of not confidence, that's not the word, but the reassurance when you're doing psychic work, intuitive work, that doubt clouds it. That ability to shine the torch in the dark, that's the ultimate vision of an Eleusinian mystery. They carried their torches down into the darkness to go on that underworld journey is really helpful.
So let's tidy up a little bit of our correspondences. So I think I feel that it's really great for the third eye chakra. For yourself, what chakra would you attribute Amyris to?
Actually, I would say that has an action on the third eye chakra, but for me, it works the opposite way because I'm trying to get the energy out of my head. It closes it as well, but that might be because of the way that I deliberately use it that way. Setting your intention has a big part. But I think all kinds of base notes are always going to make you have that grounding effect, the root chakra. Also, from a medical astrology point of view, hemorrhoids has got to come to that area. But so root chakra, sacral chakra, how I talked about how it's not really aphrodisiac as such, but there is that sort of sense of, oh, there's stuff going on in this area. So yeah, I would put it lower down than that, but I can see why it would be helpful to use as third eye chakra.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you said Venus for Amyris?
Yeah, I just think that so this is a medical astrology kind of masterclass statement, really, that anything to do with the veins and circulation, that is ruled by Mars. And so medical astrology always says Venus tempers Mars. So anything that's a Mars problem, you use Venus to bring it down. You know, they have this push you, pull you across this passionate relationship across the universe, across the cosmos all of the time. So any kind of I mean, I didn't go there, but if you're angry or if you have that volatile kind of feeling, then Amyris would be great to just go, shush, quiet, real Venus, like, come on, my darling, kind of behavior. So I would put it there. But yeah, but also Pluto, sex, dark sex, those kind of things. Yeah.
I'm not strongly convinced on my answer for Amyris. As I said, it's not one that I've worked with except my overindulgence of this week. My initial idea was the moon. I found it to be, it's illuminatory, but it's not illuminatory in a way like a citrus oil is. It's definitely not the sun type of thing. So I kind of almost feel like it's, like the full moon lights our way at night when we're trying to get through the darkness. The moon could that way. But to kind of let out a little bit of a few house secrets, me and Liz have been kind of delving into some dwarf planets. And maybe later this year we might have something exciting to share with you all. But Pluto has kind of two companion dwarf planets in Orcus and Ioxon. And I think possibly Amyris might sit around them as well as that kind of, like you said, with that Pluto of kind of bringing up and understanding what's deep within ourselves, and maybe Ioxon or Orcus might. Well, I don't know. I need a few more days and delving to kind of decide where I'd sit with that. But if I had to choose an answer today, it would be the moon.
I'll answer to that. So the moon, I would say, any kind of I would want, if I was trying to sort of bring a moon energy into something, I would want the emotions to flow.
Mm.
Whereas this kind of goes slow the flow.
Mm.
So I think, so I can see, I can see it. It wouldn't be the image of the moon I was trying to project.
Yeah.
I have learned the names of those. So Orcus, I really am into Orcus, I have to say, in the research we're doing. So Orcus was an Etruscan god. He's the Etruscan kind of equivalent of Hades, isn't he? Orcus was the person that dragged you into the underworld, into Tartarus, if you had broken an oath to God, to a god. Yeah, not to God, to a god. So any god will do. And actually, so one of the things I've been thinking about in this work, writing devotions for nymphs, is right. Can I sustain that oath? Because I don't want Orcus knocking up my door. And again, I think that maybe the fact that you would always be worried about breaking a vow that Orcus would come goes against this feeling of that reassurance.
Mm.
So I'm interested in what you say. So I'm going to go and look and see if I can see that. But that would be my first response. I have learned the other god's name differently to you. I've learned it as Ixion.
It could be
Um,
Ixion. Yeah.
uh, I don't. Well, one thing that we learned in classical studies is there's no right or wrong way to say it because nobody was alive when we heard them say it. So,
Yep.
it can't be right or wrong. But again, Ixion's about learning to break the rules. I kind of can see that. I think that probably is correct. It wouldn't be the way I would use it, but I would say that's a clever one.
Mm.
It's about
Yep.
like learning to break the rules, almost the opposite to Orcus. Orcus is like those rules are there to be maintained. Ixion goes, yeah, but who wrote those rules? Why are those
Yeah.
rules my rules? Yeah.
Yep.
So kind of they're almost like polar opposites. I'm going to say Ixion's clever. I like it.
Ah, fair enough. Cool. I must go back. I remember one of my things that I always like to do is I look at the plant's flowers and go with my old tradition of the Greek. The flower color dictates the planet, and it is a white flowering plant. So I think that's
It's a
where I
white
started
flower.
with the moon, and then went, okay, no, I can sit with the moon on this one. Sometimes I'll argue with the flower color, but that was another reason for the moon as well.
Yeah, I think we've got some fun coming up when we start to really delve into what the oils are for these different dwarf planets to do the masterclass eventually. I think there's going to
Mm.
be some arguments between us. It's going to be
Yes,
interesting.
and quite possibly could be, but that's all right. Um, Now, I'm not going to ask you, is this an that everyone should have in their collection? But the question I do want to ask you, you've obviously got a lot of friends that are top aromatherapists around the world. If we were to jump on an aeroplane and go visit 10 of them, if I was to look at their collection, do you think a lot of aromatherapists would have it in their collection that they're using with their clients on a regular basis? Or do you still think it's an oil that worldwide has yet to kind of come to um its full glory out of the shadow of
Well,
sandalwood?
that's a very interesting question, and I think probably 80% of them would have
Okay.
it in there because it's cheap. And but also, I tell you who definitely will have it. It will be those people who make blends based on perfumery, so
Hmm.
based on scent. Because although it's not a base note fixative, so it won't fix the fragrance like myrrh or benzoin, for example, because its molecules are massive, they linger on the skin for a long time. So it really brings body and heart to a blend. So if you want to make a blend that's going to get you through the night, if you're going out for the night and you want a perfume, if you've just put all like citruses in and stuff, it's just so ethereal, it's gone. But Amyris blends so well with so many different things is the other thing. It really just goes, oh yeah, I'll play. So kind of oriental and chypre kinds of perfumes. So anybody who blends that way is going to be almost always using Amyris, I would say.
Yeah.
A very interesting thing was after you have given me so many blooming questions over the last few weeks, so glad to escape that this week of what about comparing it with other essential oils. And I keep looking at my bookcase and thinking, well, where's my Tisserand book? I have the most recent one on my phone and my Kindle, but it does this irritating thing that you can't put it on too many different devices at once. So I'm using the phone, can't do that. So I thought, well, I've got the old one, and actually signed by the man himself, my old one. And I thought, oh, I'll have it on the page. It's not even in this book. So this one's, so yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in the new one. I can't see how I'd have got written this so thoroughly about the chemistry if it wasn't. But yeah, so this one dates to early 1990s, wasn't even in the book. So that I think, as you quite rightly say, it's coming through. But I would say most people have it just for relaxing blends and stuff because it's cheap. You can put a good profit margin in your treatment, using it.
Yeah, but I think maybe this is another one of those up and coming oils that, it's yet just like it lights the fire and lets us see through the darkness. Maybe that's what Amyris will do in the decades to come.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that you're saying that not many people use it because I thought everyone did.
Hmm. I've always heard of it. I've always seen it in blends, but I've never kind of celebrated it as a single oil until the last week.
Yes, get in there.
Yes. So hopefully we've inspired you, if you don't have Amyris in your collection, to maybe give it a shot. It is an amazing oil. And good news is, whereas sandalwood is endangered, Amyris at this moment is listed as being of least concern. So you you can get your essential oil for cheaply and you can celebrate and try it. And we'd love to know in the comment how you use it for the body, for the mind, for the spirit. So until next week, we'll be back to
Now,
this. Oh, you've got another
one
thing you want to talk
moment,
about.
safety. I just want to say that it's really safe.
Ah, yes.
The maximum dilution, you would say 3% because that's normal maximum dilution, but it's safe to use on children. The only time you wouldn't want to use it is the first 16 weeks of pregnancy, but I said that about every single oil. But yeah, use it liberally and easily.
Go to town.
So,
Excellent. Can I do my
goodbye.
closing now? Thank you very much for joining us for this episode of Fellowship in Essential Oils. We'll be back next week and we'll dive into another essential oil. Until then, take care and enjoy your Amyris.
Always have the last word, don't I? Bye.